Okie dokie. We're gonna do a model holding a weapon or model with an object. This can vary a little bit from whatever to whatever, um, whether it's a spear or a gun or whatever. Um, as you can see, I'm going to take all the animation off this character. So we just have, I'm going to keep the pose though. And then I'm going to come over here. If you guys have something you'd like to have your character hold, that's great. If not, if you come up here to the content browser, there's a whole bunch of stuff, weapons and things in here. And um, I'm going to pull in the space gun. So I'm just going to double click on that. And there it is. And of course it came in super huge. Let's move it out of the way. I'm going to come over here into polygon primitives and go blink. And in a right-handed view, I'm going to put it into her hand. So the obviously it's a little big for her. So we're going to reduce it. And reduce it. And we're also going to take her hand, and we're going to be on frame 0. 0, I said, frame 0. Make sure that we have keys on everything. I didn't get rid of the first keys. There we go. Okay, so now we have keys on frame 0. Rotate her hand. Sometimes it's better to do this in a right-hand view, but if sometimes a top view is good too. So I want her hand to be 90 degrees to the world. Uh, I can go back and move it later on, but for this very moment, it's much easier if you're aligned with the world grid. So you can see on the top view here. Top view. I'm aligned. The gun is aligned with this grid system. Her arm is also aligned with this grid system. We know the gun is the right size. And now I can do my best to kind of place it in her hand. And I want to catch this part here right in her thumb. You know, if you're doing a sword, if you're doing a lightsaber, if you're doing whatever, and just worried about a hand. Don't worry about this part here yet. Great. And then I need to take these 3 fingers, doop, 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 and I want to rotate, not the gun though, unclick the gun, and then rotate them. And I'm going back and forth up and down the line until they grab. So that's pretty good. And then the fire finger, get that on there. The thumb is all good. Yeah, and so then once you're on the gun like it's supposed to be, you can take this gun, and we want to make sure that the gun is attached to her hand bone. So I go like 4 so you can see the skin. In fact, I'll turn the skin off so you can see what we're doing. The problem is sometimes is that when modelers make guns and things, the pivots aren't necessarily lined up where the hand has to go. So if we were to do this in an actual game, this gun would be a separate object. We'd be able to put all sorts of crap in our hand. But the pivot, this point here where this blue and this green thing meet, that's called the pivot. The center of this object is off. So what happens is this gun is placed in her hand here. It's probably attached to this point here or into something controller there. So what we need to do is when this gun snaps into the world in a game, this is not in rendering, these 2 pivots need to be aligned. So we take the pivot for the gun and we snap it to that bone. And I can do that in a top view too. By hitting D, it allows me to move the pivot. If I don't hit D, then I can move the object. But if I hit D, then I'm only moving the pivot, and I want that right on top of there. I hit D again. So now this gun is assigned to her hand, or not, it is aligned to her hand. And then what I want to do is take the gun, and I want to hit these buttons here, delete history and freeze, and then I want to grab this bone and I'm going to parent it to that by hitting P. I'm going to select the gun first, and then this bone, select the child first, then the bone, and hit P. And that puts what's called a parental constraint on there. So now anywhere that I move the hand, the gun goes with it in perfect alignment. All right, I can turn the skin back on. And as you probably noticed, our perfect alignment is a little bit out because it's messing with her arm. So, I mean, the gun is meant to kind of sit like that, right? And there's a good chance that we would remake the gun so it would be a little bit better. But for now, let's do this. We'll rotate the shoulder out a little bit. And the upper arm. Rotate this forward. And in a game, it's super important to guess what? To have the gun pointing forward. So your pose, if you're doing this for a game, your pose needs to go like that. So what are the rules? Can't bite into the mesh too much. It has to point forward. And she's very strong. It's like a huge gun, but it's a cool pose. Great. And actually, we're kind of done with moving the gun. We could, it's aligned now in the Z-axis, right? So it's facing forward. And from a right point of view, you can see it's aligned horizontally perfectly and vertically almost perfectly. Rotate it this way a little bit. And I'm rotating her hand, not the gun. Oh, no, I rotated the gun. We don't want to rotate the gun. We can lock the gun off now. I'm going to create another layer and add the gun to it and then template it because I don't want to accidentally select it because we've now parented it to the character. We want to move her arms and hands in order to align the gun with the world. So go down to her hand and do the same thing I just did. And yeah, okay, we're good. And so then when you're in a game, this would obviously fire forward and stuff. That's why you need to have it perpendicular when you're setting it up, is that you would create a locator. Create a locator. And that locator would be put at the muzzle, and that would generate the muzzle flash and all sorts of stuff. A locator is just a shape that says, hey, this is where stuff happens. It's a non-renderable shape that things can be attached to. And you don't need to use a locator. Sometimes people use bones, there's lots of stuff. But generally what would happen is we put an object there, and that's where the fire would come from, and that's where the fire trace would come from. So if you were to fire that gun. But what we're more concerned about right now is this idle. So the gun is locked. And you'll notice the gun is actually in this stack that I grabbed over here. There it is. We don't really want to select it because we don't want animation on it. It had one animation frame on it, but that's all it gets. Okay, so now we're going to go to our first frame, which is frame 1 in this one. Go to the last frame, which is frame 120, set a key. Go to frame 60 and set a key. And now we can go back and do our animations like we did before. And with a gun, you always want to, with like a heavy object, you always want to give it a little bit of weight. So for instance, as she's coming up, you never want to translate, by the way, you always want to rotate. As the gun's coming up, maybe it weighs a lot, and so it comes up a little bit slower. So the way you show weight, and I'm on the wrong side to do it, you go to the left side. A really good way to show weight is that when she's hit her apex of her the lowest part of her pose here, she starts coming up, we try and keep the gun where it is. So if we look at the grid, right, the gun is her hand is sitting in this square right here. So as she goes up, we can keep it in this square as long as possible by straightening out her arm. And then see as she comes up. And we can even tilt this down a little bit. And you can sell that with her entire body if you want. Maybe her body tilts the whole way and her arm raises a little bit to compensate. And you can even have it motion follow through because it's such a quick motion from here to here, right? We should continue it over here so that when it loops, it has follow through. And by that I mean we're going to rotate the hand up a little bit here so that the gun goes up first and then it comes down. So it's called overlay animation. Now with IK in her arm, this would have been really easy, but we don't have IK. Yeah, not so much. I'm not liking that so much, but you kind of get the idea. So if we can go in here, doot, doot, doot. I'll select all three of those bones here, and I'm going to delete these animations here, and delete these ones here. It's too much. Sometimes it gets too busy. Idols are a subtle art for sure. Now let's do that. put a little Z movement on it. There we go. Nope, don't like that either. I honestly, I honestly think this one's better, where it's just, yeah. But I do want to do this arm a little bit. Try that. Uh, you feel free to move this stuff around if it helps you visualize what's going on. Okay, one last thing. Turn this on just for fun. I'm going to assign her Space Pirate material to this gun and then go into, in a total um, non-animation move, I'm going to put UVs on the gun. UV editor. Here's all the gun pieces. And then all you do is find some interesting metal bits, like say, I don't know, her hand. It's pretty cool. I can do this or this. I think her hand. Let's see what that looks like. Just to give it a little color. Yeah, it's not great. It's too low res of a texture. Anyways, that's just for fun. There's your idle. And make sure it works in the front. Great.